Okay, get started then. Welcome everyone. We're the finance meeting for the commissioners. Today, September 29th, 1:30 p.m. And we'll open with the public comment opportunity. Do you have anyone? I can talk this. Okay. What did I talk this time? Okay, so we have one item 3, which is the minutes of our meeting of September 22. Need action.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to item 4. We have numerous topics for discussion today. Lots of substantive stuff today, so we'll take these in order unless there's any objections. We have the first item is the Higher Education American Rescue Plan Recovery Grant. And is Toby attending? Okay, so Toby, we had you online. I'm assuming we can hear you. So if you'd like to proceed with the presentation on the Higher Education Grant, now would be the time.
We promoted him to a panelist.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, great. So last time we presented the recommended set of 3 grants for, to be considered, and basically we haven't made any changes to those from our last meeting last week. And if there's any questions, I'm glad to answer any. We'd proceed with the recommendations as it was presented last week.
Questions? If there's no questions, this is an action question item, so I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the Higher Education American Rescue Plan Recovery Grant Program Awards.
I second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any additional questions? Last chance. If not, call the vote. And all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. I think that's all we have, Toby, unless you had something else you wanted to provide to us on this.
Nope, that's it. I think the draft agreement is in process for these, and we've got draft award letters, so we'll be working to get the get award letters out and work on getting agreements in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds good. Nice job. All right, we'll let you get back to whatever.
We have another action requested.
With his?
Mm-hmm.
And I can speak to the letter.
Okay, yes.
On this, Toby, unless you'd like to.
No, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, so we just took the letter from the CARES Act and modified it to be customized it to the grant program, provided all of the requirements that individuals would be receiving from us, as well as documents that we need to receive back before the payments would be made. Toby and I have shared our thoughts with one another, made some changes. It's been reviewed by Ron Snow and Dana Best, and it's also been reviewed by Keith.
So it's all requirements. All right. Okay, any questions on this side?
No.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
We approve the Higher Education American Rescue Plan Recovery Grant Program letter as presented.
I second that motion.
Very good. It's moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, thanks, Toby. Okay, we'll move along to the third discussion item. Mary Kuhn is here from the Housing Redevelopment Authority. Present us some information on the land bank proposal we've been kicking around for a while. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so I think you all have a little presentation. And basically what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about what a land bank is, and then essentially explain the process going forward for the county with a land bank. So essentially, land banks were created in 2012. They were created as separate entities from authorities. So it was given it could be a government entity and was focused on the conversion of vacant properties, abandoned properties, tax delinquent. Essentially, you can think of it as, again, another entity that can acquire property, eliminate liabilities, and transfer property. So that being said, they can acquire properties, they can negotiate sales, land banks can distinguish tax liens through agreements with municipalities. That's one of the unique aspects of a land bank. They can quiet title things, and then they can hold properties as tax exempt. The one thing they cannot do is eminent domain. So eminent domain is a power that only essentially a redevelopment authority has, not a land bank. So, and for just clarification, quiet titling just means if it's a very complicated title and you can't figure out what the back end of it is, where it belongs, who, what, when, where, why, or how. So things get transferred over the years. Land banks have the ability to just go with the legal process of quieting that title and take a clean title to that property. So sort of just the title goes away and a new title is put to a property.
I have a question on the other items. You mentioned about the acquisition of property through priority bid at tax
Yes.
sales. Could you define that for us?
Sure. So basically, what happens is the land bank works out an agreement with the county's tax bureau and sort of comes up with this agreement where it has a trump bid. Or priority bid, where they would go in before a tax sale, look at the list and say, here are the properties that, after doing the research, here's the properties we would like. Those properties would then be removed from tax sale. The land bank would essentially pay for those properties prior to them going back out. So that's the priority bid. So it's just go at a tax sale that would be able to say, here's the ones we are interested in, here's the ones we'd like to acquire, be able to acquire them without them going through the whole tax bid process. But that's negotiated and the process is discussed with the counties.
Does that in any way negate the possibility of another bidder who would actually pay more for the facility?
It does. So it does negate the ability of another bidder to go after the property. But it also, the goal is to eliminate bidders who in fact might not do what's necessary for the property. So sometimes the issue that a lot of communities have faced is that maybe there's a key property that the municipality is interested in seeing redeveloped, and yes, somebody might bid on it, but you're not really sure what their intentions are at the end of the day. So it does negate that. Also, if there's, so that's the initial idea, is that while the land bank would be going after something with this priority bid, you're guaranteed that it's going to be developed in a way that's meaningful.
How would you respond, hypothetically, how would you respond to someone who says that that's essentially a backdoor?
I would say that it's technically not, because once the property, eminent domain is providing what the actual value of that property is to the owner. These people, this property, they relinquish their rights to it by not paying taxes. So it's not eminent domain. In fact, the county, by putting it up for tax sale, is probably eminent domain that realistically, if you were to make the argument that someone not paying their taxes and taking their property, putting it up for sheriff's sale is domain.
So just so I'm clear though, so the local taxing bodies would be, they would be a partner in.
They would be a partner in it.
Eligible for priority.
Right, and having worked with a land bank before and being the staff of one, the goal is really, you want to pick up something someone's going to redevelop where that's key. You just don't want to cast this net and just grab everything for no reason. There has to be a strategy to it. So I think it falls in line with the larger strategy the county and municipalities are going for. Yeah, it would be engaging them, not just, oh, everything looks nice list of things, let's just go for it. So I think it would probably be taking the most blighted of them, because realistically, we would have to come in with far more money than a private developer could. A lot of times people pick things up at tax sale sight unseen, and then, oh, I just spent $1,000 on this and I have no means to fix it. So.
I guess what I'm getting is the way it's structured, we will not end up butting heads with the municipality.
No, that's not the goal at all, no. So we would make sure to engage them through the process.
Thank you. Great.
So, but basically, what happened in 2018, the state figured out that redevelopment authorities do not have the power to discharge or extinguish property tax liens and claims. They don't have that, and they don't have the ability to pursue quiet title. So why not just then give all these powers in one to a redevelopment authority and allows redevelopment authorities to become a land bank? So instead of going through this entire process to create a separate entity that can do one set of things and the redevelopment authority is created to do another set of things, and they all have to somehow work together, just allow them to become the same entity. To summarize that, for Cumberland County and a number of counties that followed suit, once this law was passed in 2018, it would be the redevelopment authority board would essentially be the land bank board. The powers of the land bank are granted to the redevelopment authority, but it would be a separate physical meeting, separate date, separate everything with that respect, and then separate advertisements. It would still have to meet the sunshine law and all, open records. But it would not be wrapped up as part of the redevelopment authority meeting. So redevelopment authority meeting,
The board has to be the same.
but the board would be the same. Yes,
Would be or must be.
must be. So the way it's written, it would be the same board. And so again, basically, purpose of the land bank is to just deter blight and promote redevelopment and reuse of vacant buildings. So again, and I won't go through the rest of this, but funding for land banks is a kind of an interesting concept. So there's not anything made to fund their startup. That is an investment usually from a local governing body to fund them. When they were created, there was no thought of how to actually invest in these things and give them some startup money. So counties really have a discretion there. But what most land banks do to continue funding their acquisition of properties is one, of course, acquiring and disposing of that property to the private sector, so through the sale. But they also come up with a tax share with the local taxing bodies. That's 5 years generally, and 50% of whatever the increased value is. So it's negotiated. In the case of a county, it would be negotiated with each separate taxing body. So it wouldn't be a blanket. We'd have all these agreements floating all over the place because we actually have something there. But it would be a discussion and an agreement with that municipality to say the value has increased. We'll get it to this place that you want to see it at, and then from there you would owe 50% of that increase to the land bank to then continue on its mission. So that would last 5 years, but each would be a separate intergovernmental cooperation agreement that would come through. So that's
Does the new transfer fee factor into this?
The new transfer fee covers demolition. So you dump just demolition, which actually, again, could be beneficial in a lot of the cases. Some of the properties that have recently come to the blight board have been, they need to be demoed. There's no question about it. So in this, and again, the land bank can apply for some grants, they can apply for loans and things like that. But the main idea is that there's this constant stream of small revenue that's coming in and keeping it going. So the idea is to hopefully get an initial investment and then you can work from there. Work with each municipality and school district separately. So there'll be a lot of conversations happening throughout the county, but yes. So the blight plan, if you look at it as a couple of tools, is one, you have the power to do the blighted property process and to do eminent domain on a property. You have the ability to now go after properties that are blighted and out for tax sale. Again, you have some of this acquisition funding that's out there, some CDBG maybe some investment from the county, from the land bank to acquire. And from there, it's a simple process, simple one, but there's this, we can do some of this tax sharing, dispose of a property, that puts a little money into the pot. If it needs to be demoed, you have the demolition fund for the county, so that Act 152, so you can demolish the property. And then we do have some money at the Redevelopment Authority, a revolving loan fund that could be used to bring these blighted properties, basically to help improve them. It's not a lot of money, but it's, I just make it a revolving loan right now at 0%, so we'll just hopefully keep refilling. So that's where we're at right now with the blight process for the county. But this is another tool to just be able to go after those other ones. So we can eminent domain through the blight process, and then on this side, we would be able to go after some really blighted properties that are for tax sale.
I wonder if this somehow could fit into ARP funding for us.
I think it's, I've mentioned it to Toby, and I think Stoner has as well. So it's been on the list. It's just a sort of initial start.
Yeah.
Worth pursuing. This is pretty much the same as the way Dauphin County runs theirs.
It's pretty much the same. I think Dauphin has this, did they go through the county as well? I know there's a number of them that are county based. Yeah, so it's been a couple of different setups, but it made it, when the law changed, it made it far easier, and most counties have now proceeded, which places are a little frustrated that they have to go through the other process back in 2013, but this is just a far easier approach.
Questions?
The only one I had was the one you had, Gary, about the Act 152 transfer fee. That's off the table.
Okay, so we have the concept, and I see we have a draft ordinance, not a model, it's draft, so it's very specific to us. I assume the solicitor team is.
I believe both of them have, so my sister and we looked at it.
So this would be then subject to a vote. We have a schedule in mind.
So our next step would be a vote on advertising the ordinance. And we were looking at the 14th, the workshop on the 14th. If you were amenable, we could certainly do that on Monday at the BSC meeting, whichever would make the most sense. I have not yet firmed up in my head exactly what period of time this has to be advertised, but once that advertisement period ended, we would bring that forward at the next meeting for vote.
I'm okay with Monday.
Me too. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So keep things moving.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, is that everything you have?
That's everything.
All right, those are the three topics of discussion, which brings us to item 5, which is other business. If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. We're adjourned. Thank you.